So 3 economic questions. This one is pretty basic. You might not have to copy them down. You've already got these down quite a few times, so you don't need to copy these down. Our 3 basic economic questions are what to produce, how are goods and services produced, and who do you produce for? On your test, you'll need to be able to explain all 3 of these with examples. For your test, you'll need to be able to explain these with examples. Now let's start writing with our headings. So, what to produce is the first economic question. So pretty much, societies are just like people. Societies are just like people in that scarcity forces us to make trade-offs. So societies are just like people. Scarcity forces us to make trade-offs on what are we going to get, what are we going to buy. Governments have to do this. Also, companies have to do this. I'm going to take Apple and use them as an example. Apple is probably having discussions right now with their engineers and with their PR people. They're probably having a discussion right now. It's going on. It's probably going to be a continuing discussion going on over the next 3-4 years. The discussion will be, which one of these 3 do we focus on? And how much? If we put more money into laptops, that might mean less money for tablets. It might mean less money for phones. If we put all our money into phones and try to compete with Samsung there, it might mean less money for tablets and less money for computers. So Apple has to make a decision. They have scarce resources. I mean, I wish I had their resources, but they end. So they have to make a decision. The trade-off is if Apple goes, we're going into phones, and we're going to put tons of money, and we're going to make the iPhone the best phone ever, it might mean that they make less laptops. Or if they decide that, you know what, the tablet thing, I don't know, maybe we should make our laptops better so we have more powerful computers, it might mean they have less tablets. Go ahead.
Wouldn't that mean that the computers and the iPads would be more expensive?
It could be if they make less, yeah. If they make less of them, they'll be more expensive. And I think you guys are going to see a shift in your lifetime that's going to come in the next 5 to 10 years. The shift will probably be this one here, the laptop, might eventually be gone. I mean, the personal computer, isn't that almost already gone?
Yeah.
Like buying the big computer, plugging your monitor into it, having the keyboard there you separately plug in. Is that on its way out?
Yeah.
Yeah, for most homes, it's gone. I mean, it's even starting to replace the TV. I think my wife and I watch more TV on our laptop than we watch on the actual TV at this point. So, all right. So anyway, so talking about that, there's scarcity. Apple faces this too. If you want an example of it, if Apple decides to go into phones and tablets, the trade-off is laptops. And I'd be willing to bet my money that Apple's going to make that decision pretty soon.
You think they're going to go more into the tablet and iPhone?
I think if you look at it, aren't tablets kind of slowly becoming laptops?
Yeah.
Except for a smaller version. They're just going to get more powerful, and as soon as they're powerful, then what's the point of a laptop? I think it's a matter of time. I think we're looking at a matter of time before laptops will become like our old personal computers used to be. I mean, teachers used to have personal computers in their offices. No teacher here has that. Why?
Because you have laptops.
And it's so much better. I can bring it to my classroom. I can plug in my PowerPoint right here. I don't have to have 2 computers. I just have 1. Does that make sense? More efficient. So this would be an example of what to produce. Apple's got to make this decision. And there's an example with the laptops. What to produce. Even a big company like them has to make this decision. Governments do too. Governments also have to make this decision, what to produce. A government has to decide, well, let's take a city government. The city of Minneapolis in the state of Minnesota has made a decision to invest quite a bit of money into a Vikings football stadium. Quite a bit of money is going in that stadium. Now, the owners are paying their part, but the city's also paying a large amount of money. But that's not free money. That comes from somewhere. That means the city and the state might have less money for daycare facilities, schools, roads. Now, maybe it makes sense to build a stadium. Maybe that's going to bring more money into the city. Maybe it'll bring more events into the city. Maybe it can help. Or maybe it's not. Maybe we'd be better off with going to better schools. However, I'm not going to say what's right and wrong. I'm just going to say it is a trade-off. So when it comes to what to produce, it's always a trade-off. This is how companies have to work. Who's ever going to make this decision at Apple is going to take a gamble. Microsoft, about 5-6 years ago, the CEO, who's now fired, said tablets aren't going to make it. Tablets are a fad. They're not going to last. He made the trade-off of investing more in the personal computers. He's now the former CEO of Microsoft. Wasn't a good decision. Obviously, tablets are where it's going. Does that make sense? He made a trade-off. He made a bad decision. Apple made a good decision. So, let's continue there. And so what else? I mean, this is also when it comes to government, this is the guns and butter argument. Do we have more self-defense? Do we put more police officers on the street? Or do we invest in programs that can bring food to people? It's a trade-off. You can't have things both ways. So what to produce? This is one of the key economic questions. Economic systems. This is the whole point of our looking at economic systems, governments. These are decisions you have to make. And they're difficult. I mean, would it be hard to decide on this like Viking Stadium? What happens if the Vikings move? Are there going to be a lot of mad people? Yeah. So there's a cost to that. Is there a benefit to it? Yeah. But there's also a cost of if you keep them here, you're maybe giving up something else. So what to produce? Scarcity forces trade-offs, but this is for a big government. And if you don't think this is serious, this is people's jobs and livelihood. So economic decisions are huge. You have to analyze this and look at the cost-benefit analysis. That's why we do these things. All right, now let's go to the next one. How are goods and services to be produced? How are goods and services to be produced? Why do you think I put a map of China on here?
That's where all our China.
It would be hard to like, if you wanted to go through your house and get rid of everything that was made in China, how long would it take you?
Your house is gone?
It's like, wait a minute, okay, I'm stuck with just the house, nothing else. So, these are goods that are made in China in 2008. So this is the U.S. manufacturing plants. And here we see the cities, and here are cities that have between 291 and 969 manufacturing plants.
Damn.
So these cities have somewhere a ballpark figure of 300 to almost 1,000. Like right there, right there, right there. That's the big dot. This dot right here, the medium one, there's quite a few of them on there. Is 100 to 290, 37 to 104, 12 to 36. There are literally thousands and thousands of U.S. manufacturing plants in China right now. Better or worse, whatever you want to think about it, they exist and they're there. Go ahead.
So wouldn't that make China more powerful since the U.S. is starting to depend more on the Chinese workers?
It makes them more powerful. Now, does it make them more powerful than us? When we start talking about free trade, there are a lot of arguments that this actually benefits both of us. There's a lot of arguments that it benefits both of us, some arguments that it doesn't. Go ahead.
But
We'll get there.
would you need us to go over there to like bring our industries over there and go back to work?
Yeah, I would make an argument that the future of America is that, this is mine, you can disagree with me if you want. The only way we keep manufacturing jobs here is if we get robotics and technology. That's it. That's the only way we keep them here. But I don't know if we want those jobs. I think we may have to go the upper level jobs. Like, do you know in America, we import engineers
Yeah.
because we don't train enough engineers?
What does that mean?
Well, what it means is that
Other countries.
we need to not like compete for the lower jobs, in my opinion. We need to compete for the
Higher.
higher jobs and have more education. If we compete for the lower jobs, I think we have to go lower pay. Go ahead.
So couldn't China put an embargo on the U.S. and not pretty much destroy the U.S.?
And we destroy them too.
What is the embargo?
We're tied together.
You gotta.
We'll go there. We're tied together. They need us as much as we need them. But for better or worse, we are basically in an economic marriage.
Exactly.
So, and divorce would be very, very bad for both. Let's keep going now. So, how are goods and services to be produced? This basically goes with the production. We want to look at efficiency as a big one on this one. To produce, you got to be efficient. And what does efficient mean? Well, a lot of U.S. companies say, for efficiency and for cost, I could have the factory here where I pay people $15, 18 bucks an hour, or I move it to China where I can pay $5 a day. Now that might sound like, man, that's so horrible, but you also have to factor in cost of living. Buying power in the US is, if you have $1, it's worth like $7 in China. So if you get paid less in China, things also cost less there too. So it's not always like, that $1 equals $1. It costs a lot to live in America. That's one thing people don't understand, like when a lot of immigrants when they come to the United States, think if they get this big paying job, they're going to live big and everything, but they don't realize how much everything costs, like how much is rent. So let's keep on going. All right, so firms have to choose how they produce goods they sell. So one big question is machines versus people.
People.
And American manufacturing is starting to come back, actually. There's been like a rebound. For a long time, there were factories in America closing. Now some factories have opened. But the ones that have opened and been successful have been more efficient. What they've been able to do is they've been able to use technology. So now, even if you want a factory job, you might need a 2-year degree. Because you have to be able to work the robotics and the machinery that's in there. You're not going to give this $1 million machinery to someone who's not trained or educated to use it. I mean, I wouldn't. You'd have to show me they know how to use it. I would want that person to have some training. So, even like those kind of jobs in America, what's important to know is you need those skills even to work some factory jobs now. It's kind of become in America now, for us to compete, you have to have something beyond high school. It's not like the old days where you could go to the nearby factory, work there for 40 years, retire, get your gold watch, and raise your family. Those days in America are gone, for better or for worse. All right, so in deciding whether to move offshore production, so when companies move offshore production to China, they need to choose between a production method in the US, which uses fewer workers, or go with the method in China that has technology's not as good, but the workers are cheap. So if I'm a company and my draw to China is cheap labor, but the technology won't match what we can do in America. So America, I hire fewer workers, more machines, and I have the factory there. Or I go to China and I hire a lot of workers and realize the technology is not going to be there. So it depends on how you make things. Even Apple and most companies now make most of their products in China. So efficiency, where to produce, America or here. Who to hire? Do you need skilled workers or do you need low-skilled workers? All depends on what you're producing. In America, we have to go to higher skill level jobs if you want to compete. And the last one, of course, is technology. How does technology affect what is produced? All right. I think this won't be